Hello there. Tonight I thought I would try a wine from Neudorf. So the one I'm looking at is Neudorf Rosies Block Moutere Chardonnay 2024. My reason for wanting to look at a wine from Neudorf is to remember one of the pioneers of New Zealand's wine industry who passed back at the end of October. It was Tim Finn, one of the co-founders with his wife Judy of Neudorf, a producer of some fabulous wines and a pioneer and a leading figure for the Nelson region. Now, Neudorf are widely regarded as one of New Zealand's best Chardonnay producers, so I'm very much looking forward to trying this wine. And the 2024 vintage was a hugely successful vintage in this part of the world. Now, originally, Tim was a research scientist, and back in the 1970s, he was working on his master's degree, and that was in animal behavioural science. He was working for the Ministry of Agriculture at the Ruakura Research Centre. And evidently the work at Ruakura overlapped to some extent with work at Te Kauwhata, or what would now be pronounced Te Kauwhata, which was then the government centre for wine research. There's a quote from Tim saying that a little bit of cross-fertilisation occurred when he was there. So having got the wine bug, Tim and his wife Judy started looking to buy somewhere in one of New Zealand's established wine regions. And eventually they found a piece of land in Nelson that they thought looked quite interesting. They purchased the land, and Tim worked with the assistance of people he knew through the Te Kauwhata Research Centre to learn as much as possible about growing grapes and making wine. Now, Tim and Judy planted their first vineyard in 1978, and they had very little to go on at all. In the Nelson region, the first vines had been planted in 1973 by the Seafried family, so these were vines that themselves were only just starting to produce fruit. They said that they started with passion, but much less knowledge than is available these days. So a lot of the vineyard was established on a let's try it and see sort of basis. So early plantings at Neudorf included things like Riesling and Chardonnay. They had Gewurztraminer, Semillon. They tried Cabernet Sauvignon. It was a great variety they planted that had been labelled as Gamay Beaujolais, but actually when they had it analysed subsequently it turned out to be Pinot Noir. They planted Merlot, they planted Chenin Blanc, they planted Muller-Thurgau, which was incredibly popular in New Zealand at that stage. But actually what they found was, despite the fact that Nelson has some of New Zealand's highest sunlight hours, somewhere in the region of 3,300 a year, the fact that it has such a strong diurnal shift in terms of the difference between night and day temperatures, and also the maritime influence from the nearby sea, didn't allow many of these grape varieties to ripen regularly. So the Finns eventually settled on growing cool climate varieties, so Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Riesling and Pinot Gris principally, and I believe there's now also some Albarino planted in their vineyard. As far as the early pioneers of Nelson were concerned, the idea of working together, sharing knowledge and building knowledge together was very important. And I get the impression a lot of the inspiration for this actually came from Tim with his highly inquisitive background as a research scientist. One of the things I really like about this wine, actually, in terms of, if you're talking about openness, is actually the amount of detail you get on the back label. Now, there's quite a lot of text there. I won't insist that you read it, but this says that this wine is organically grown. It gives its certification number by BioGrow. It makes it clear that the soils are Moutere clay and gravel. It's a single vineyard wine. It's from low cropping vines. It's hand harvested. It's wild fermented. It's barrel fermented. It undergoes natural malolactic conversion. It's bottled unfined. It's vegan friendly. It's in an environmentally friendly lightweight glass bottle, and it comes from a winery that is powered by solar power. I almost wonder if I need to say anything more about the wine, but I'm going to. So Nelson's Moutere Hills, where this comes from, are sited sort of in the centre of the northern tip of New Zealand's South Island. There are mountains to the east, the south and the west, providing a rain shadow, while Tasman Bay to the north provides the cooling, moderating influences to give a maritime climate. Now, Neudorf's home plantings spill down a side valley of the principal Moutere Valley, and they're on a gentle north-facing slope, so southern hemisphere facing the sun, obviously. And the valley floor here is home to hop gardens, orchards, berry farms, and some of the newer vineyards in the region. So as I've said, Nelson offers these high sunlight hours. And the summer months are warm and relatively dry. However, there's an increasing chance of rain towards the autumn. Night temperatures cool markedly towards harvest, but fortunately damaging frosts are rare. Now, Rosies block sits in the upper Moutere Valley. It was established in 1999. It's a 15-hectare block, and that's 15 out of the total 40 hectares that Neudorf own. It's at 90 metres above sea level, and like the rest of the vineyards here, is north facing. And the soils here, as defined, are a Moutere clay gravel. Topsoils are a relatively deep sandy loam with little stone content, and they say there's 19% of clay in the soil. And these vines are dry farmed, there's no irrigation, and viticulture is entirely organic, and that's been certified by an organisation called BioGrow. The plantings are 100% Chardonnay, and the technical sheet I saw said that the clones of Chardonnay used for this wine are 548 and 8021. I have also seen some other information that suggests there's some Mendoza clone Chardonnay growing in Rosie's vineyard. Possibly that wasn't on the technical sheet because it didn't go into this particular cuvee. Training is done by single and double cane vertical shoot positioning, so trying to get a narrow hedge to ensure good sunlight penetration right into the canopy and not too much shading. And the point of that is that if you get too much shading, you'll actually get the production of potassium, and that acts to buffer the acidity. So you're looking for almost a single hedge of leaf, sort of no more than one leaf shading another. As I said, the 2024 vintage was a really good one for this part of the world. So this is the season 2023 to 24. And after some unstable years, it marked a return to a more stable El Nino weather pattern without dramatic fluctuations in temperature or extreme rainfall events. The summer months were dry and warm, and there was a cooler autumnal end to the season, which makes sense. Fruit was hand harvested between the 15th and the 21st of March. Now, the fruit was whole bunch pressed, and it was settled for 48 hours, both of which you would assume gave you a relatively clean juice. However, they mention the idea of barrel fermenting with high solids. Now, I wonder if maybe that is a note that's made its way across from another technical sheet by accident. But it would make sense that if you were going to ferment as they do with the indigenous yeasts, that you wouldn't want too clean a juice, because actually you want plentiful nutrients for the yeasts to be able to work with. Fermentation happened in French oak barrels. They don't actually give the size. I would assume probably barriques or Burgundy PS, sort of 225 or 228 litre barrels. They say that 15% of those are new every year, and that they're medium toast barrels. After fermentation, the wine aged in barrel for 12 months. That was with its full lees, but just minimal batonnage. Subsequently, the wine was then racked into stainless steel tanks, where it aged for a further 4 months, but just on its fine lees. The wine wasn't fine, so they specify it was vegan friendly, and the wine was just lightly filtered into bottle. So let's take a look at it, shall we? I have to say, standing here, the aromas have been wafting up and they're absolutely lovely. So let's see what we make of it, shall we? Got a medium yellow colour there, swirling the wine. It's clinging very readily to the glass. So it's 14% alcohol according to the label, so that would make plentiful sense. So let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas are really quite vibrant. The most powerful initial aroma is quite a creamy, almost sort of yogurty, dairy note. But beneath that, there's a sort of a fresh citric note. There are notes of stone fruit, maybe some more rich tropical fruit heading towards pineapple, that sort of thing. But also some toasty hints, perhaps a touch of, perhaps a sort of a mineral touch, perhaps a touch of gunflint. The sort of aromas often produced by a wild ferment. The nose is powerful and there's plenty going on in there. So let's try it and see what it tastes like. The wine is completely dry and has a fine mineral acidity running through it that's making me salivate. The wine is a medium weight, but there's a delicate but actually quite well defined peachy fruit on the mid palate. There's a certain sort of structure. There's almost sort of a velvety hint like peach skin. Then behind that there are also those mineral notes, the wet stone, but also a sort of a sapidity, a saline note. Then on the finish, the acidity shows a more sort of citric note, and I'm left with hints of grapefruit. The alcohol seems well in balance with the weight of fruit. It's not overpowering the delicacy of the finish or anything like that. In fact, it's just giving a little bit of weight to the mid-palate. It's not a huge wine, but it does have a good presence that's ensuring the long finish. Now, I took a look at the Wine Searcher aggregated critics score, and this currently has a rating of 94 out of 100. And I think that's pretty well justified, actually, because this is an impressive wine. It's well defined, it's well balanced, it has lovely length and elegance, it's very approachable. Now, I expect the wine has at least 4 or 5 years of life ahead of it, possibly more. This is a wine that's delicate, elegant, and yet shows all the aspects I'm looking for in a barrel-fermented Chardonnay. You have leesy notes, you have ripe fruit, you have fresh acidity and a sort of citric edge, you have some elegant oak notes. As I say, you've got those rounded, creamy, leesy notes, and they're all beautifully harmoniously combined and leading to a long finish. Again, I'd like to say, I think this is a wine that really shows that the quality of New Zealand's Chardonnays is superb, and really I think is very much underrated. The other thing I think it does is it stands as a wonderful testament to the pursuit of quality Tim Finn brought to winemaking in the Nelson region. It shows what a fantastic legacy he's left, both in terms of Neudorf and their wines, but also in terms of the wines coming from the Nelson region. So I'd like to finish by giving my condolences to Tim's family and friends on his passing, and also to thank you for joining me. So thank you so much for watching this tasting. I do hope you found it of interest. If you have done, do please press the like button. That would be fantastic. If you have any friends you think might like to watch the video, do please feel free to pass it on to them. I'd appreciate your endorsement in that way. If you have any comments, please pop those in the comments box below. I'd like to know what you think about the videos I'm making, the wines I'm tasting, or anything else related to that. If you're watching my videos and you're enjoying them, it would be fabulous if you'd consider signing up and subscribing to my YouTube channel. That would really help me to further develop this channel. I will of course leave a link in the notes below to the Wine Searcher webpage for this vintage of this wine, so you can find out if it's available in your market and at what price. So once again, thank you for joining me, and I do hope that maybe you'll manage to make some time and come and join me for another video tasting in the very near future. Till then, bye for now.